Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to build some charts. We're going to build a column, bar, line, and pie chart using adjacent data and non-adjacent data. Now I've opened the Learning Files workbook and I'm on the enrollment worksheet. Now looking at this worksheet, we can tell that this sheet provides information about enrollment in 5 of my classes over the months September, October, and November. Now, the first thing you want to do when you build a chart is select the data that you want to see in the chart. I'm going to start with a chart that will display my class names and my September data. So that is considered adjacent data because it's next to each other. I've selected A3 through B7 because that's what I want to see in my chart. Notice I did not select my column headers or my totals. I only selected the actual data that I want to see in the chart. Now the tools for building charts are on the Insert tab in the Charts group. Now I have a couple of options. I can use my recommended charts. With those, Excel analyzes the data that I've selected and it makes recommendations about which charts would best represent my data. I could also use any of these icons to build a specific chart. I'm going to go with recommended charts. Now the window opens up and you can see I have 2 tabs, the recommended chart tab, and then here it displays the different types of charts that are recommended for my data. And then I have an All Charts tab. On this tab, I find all the different chart types that Excel offers in the left-hand column. And as I select one, it displays subtypes of that chart in the middle. I'm going to go with a column chart. I'm going to choose the 3D clustered column subtype. When I do that, a couple of previews show up. So I can choose which one I like. I'm going to go with this blue one and click OK. Now here's my chart. I'm going to use my 4-headed arrow to move it, and I'm going to put it right under my data. And I'm going to use one of the sizing tools in the corner to resize the chart. Now I'm going to add a chart title here so that I know what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at September enrollment. Now just quickly looking at this chart, I can see that along my horizontal axis, I've got my class names. And I've got a data point to represent each enrollment total. So for PowerPoint, I'm at 7. For Google Slides, I'm at 8, and so on. I have a vertical axis, and that gives me my enrollment numbers with a scale of 0 to 10 because my data, the highest point in my data is 10, and it always starts with a 0. All right, next, I'm going to use non-adjacent data to build a bar chart for my October enrollment. Now, non-adjacent data is data that is not next to each other. So in order to select 2 ranges that are not next to each other, I need to select the first range. So I'm going to grab A3 through A7, hold down my control key on my keyboard, and then select the second range, C3 through C7. I let go of my mouse, I let go of my control key, and my 2 non-adjacent ranges are selected. Now I can repeat the process that I just used for building my column chart. I can click on the Insert menu. This time I will choose Recommended Charts again, and I'm going to go with the first bar chart that's recommended. I'm going to select it and hit OK. And there's my chart. So I'm just going to move that underneath my existing chart and resize it so it's about the same size. And I'm going to give it the name October Enrollment. Okay, so in the last video, we talked about types of charts, and we learned that column and bar charts are essentially used for the same type of data, comparison data. The only difference between the two is the direction of the data points. So I have vertical data points in my column and horizontal data points in my bar. The next chart type I'm going to make is a pie chart. So again, I need to select non-adjacent data. I'm going to select A3 through A7 because I need my class names. I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to select D3 through D7. Let go of my mouse button, let go of my control, and I've selected 2 non-adjacent ranges. I'm going to repeat the process for building a chart. Insert. This time I'm going to use my pie chart button. So I'm going to click the drop arrow for that. And I'm going to choose a 3D pie. And I'm going to move this. Now you got to be careful when you move because you might grab a part of the chart rather than the whole chart itself. So I'm going to move this over and resize it a little bit. There's my pie chart. And I'm just going to change this to November data. Okay, so here we have 3 different types of charts that represent the same type of data. Okay, we've got comparison data for our column and bar, and we've got a pie chart for November, which shows parts compared to a whole. So the whole would be 45 classes. Those are all my classes that I covered in November. And then each slice of the pie represents a different class. And we can tell which classes those are by using the legend along the horizontal axis. Now, the last chart that I'd like to make is a line chart. So again, I need to select the data that I want to see in the chart. Now, we know that line charts best represent changes over time. So I'm going to make a chart that shows my PowerPoint classes for September, October, and November. I'm selecting A2 through D3. Now this time I'm including my column headings, and we'll see why when I build the chart. I'm going to click on Insert. I'm going with a line, so I'm going to click the line drop arrow. And I'm going to choose this one, the line with markers. Okay, now I'm just going to move that so we can look at it and resize it a little bit. Okay, so my title is PowerPoint. This is all about the PowerPoint class. And this time, in my horizontal axis, it shows me my month titles, September, October, and November. Okay, if I built this chart, if I tried to build it without selecting those column headers, here's what would have happened. If I just selected my data, A3 through D3, and built my line chart, then my chart isn't as easy to understand. Instead of having September, October, and November at the bottom, I've got 1, 2, and 3, which really doesn't make sense for my data. Okay, so this is a case when I needed to select my column headings. I'm going to hit delete. Okay, so that was the process of building charts using adjacent and non-adjacent data. Now there's lots more that we can do with charts, and all that's coming up in the next lesson.